What is going on, guys? My name is Davis and welcome back to our evening time weather update video. Today I'm going to be talking about the upcoming flooding in the northwest and then also a snowstorm that's going to impact a different portion of the northwest. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start off with the flooding here, where today you have a 5% chance to see flash flooding if you are in portions of northwestern Washington here, okay? Just west of Seattle here, west of Olympia, Tacoma, I can't speak. So do look out for that, but that's not usually a problem. You know, it's one day of a 5% chance of flash flooding. What's the big deal? Well, we played into tomorrow, and we're going to have another risk in the exact same area, but then we're also going to have one down here in northwest California and southwest Oregon that's going to also start to cause a problem. Why, you ask? Well, because even going into Sunday here, we're going to have another marginal risk in the same areas, but they're actually going to connect, okay, over the entire west coast here of Oregon, northwestern California, and then western Washington, alright? So the flooding is very continuous, which is the main problem, okay? Even going into Monday, we're still going to have a marginal risk, and now it's going to extend into Portland, okay? So if you are on the west coast here in the northwest, it's going to be a rough few days of flooding for you guys, so be sure to be prepared for that. Tuesday, we do not have a risk issued yet, but I imagine we will eventually. So let's go ahead and talk about the fun part here. Personally, the part I enjoy talking about more anyway, which is why I save it for last, is the snow. Okay, we're gonna have another round of snow coming in. This one's not gonna be as brutal as the past few, but it is going to be considerable and something that I want to talk about. Okay, so right now you may have some snow on the ground here in Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, okay, depending on where you're at. But if we go ahead and play this radar about 23 hours from the time of filming up to 6 p.m. tomorrow, Central Daylight Time, okay, I guess most of this will be in Mountain Daylight Time, but whatever, the clocks are going to set back anyway. So we play this out into 6 p.m. tomorrow night in 23 hours. We're going to have even more snow on the ground, okay? So we're going to break this down state by state like always. Starting off with Washington here, okay? Washington could get a decent amount of snow if you're in the northern portion of Washington. Maybe a dusting here in Bridgeport, Wenatchee, you know, that whole area. But once you start to get into the mountainous regions, you know, with like the darker blues, I mean, there are some 2-inch readings here in northern Washington, okay? Around Glacier Peak, Mount David, those areas, okay? You could get upwards of 2, maybe even 3 inches of snow. And then once you get into extreme north Washington, we almost need a darker blue color because this is a 4.5-inch reading here at Mount Redoubt, okay? So Mount Redoubt, 4.5 inches of snow. That's a considerable amount for this time of year, okay? We take it into the rest of the state here. You may get a few flurries, a little snow shower maybe, like around Yakima. So do look out for that. But then, like, northeastern Washington could get hit the hardest out of the whole state, okay? There's a 3.7-inch reading there, 3.3-inch reading, okay? So you just gotta look out. It's gonna be multiple inches of snow in the mountainous regions of Washington, okay? Next up, we're going to be breaking down Idaho, okay? Now, Idaho is an interesting state, because if you're in, like, southwest Idaho and, like, Boise, you're probably not going to see any snow at all, okay? Southern Idaho, entirely nothing. Most of western Idaho, nothing until you get to the Panhandle, okay? But let's go ahead and take a look at northeastern Idaho here, and, you know, kind of like north, I don't know what to call this, you know, this whole area. There's not even any big cities that I can mark it by, like around 93, okay? You could get definitely a few inches of snow up here in the mountains, okay? Even if you're not in the mountains, a couple inches of snow will be possible in some isolated spots. There's a 1.2-inch reading just south of Leadore, so look out for that. Salmon could get a little bit of snow. That's a weird town name, just Salmon. Okay, but anyway, a good inch of snow is possible if you're not in the mountains in this region, but if you are in the mountains, a couple inches, okay? Once you get into like the Panhandle, that's where it gets pretty intense, alright? So in this whole area here in the northernmost county of Idaho here, I don't know what this is called, but in the Panhandle, if you are around like Parker Peak or Smith Peak or the Abandoned Mountain, okay, you could get several inches of snow, 4, 5, maybe even isolated areas up to 6 here if you're in like extremely high elevations. Unfortunately, we can't really get a good reading up here, but you get the gist. It's gonna be quite a bit, alright? Montana here. Montana is another interesting state because you get to like north central, northeast, even like southeast Montana. Nothing. Nada. Nothing at all. But then like once you get into southwestern Montana, that's where you start to see some action, okay? So just southwest of Red Lodge here, we could get a decent few inches of snow here in the mountains, okay? So you gotta look out for that. Unfortunately, we can't, once again, we can't really get a good reading in the mountains because there's no major cities there, so they don't really do readings in that area. Southwestern Montana here, you could get like an inch along the Montana-Idaho border, so you gotta look out for that in those medium blues. And then like northwestern Montana, like Missoula, Whitefish, Kalispell, you could get an inch or two of snow once again. And then in extreme northwestern Montana, you could actually get like 2 or 3, maybe even isolated areas up to 4 inches of snow in the mountains, so look out for that. Wyoming, by far the hardest hit state in the next 24 hours or so. Northwestern Wyoming, like again though, western Wyoming's the only thing that's going to see any snow at all. You know, the eastern half of the state, nothing at all. But once you get into western Wyoming, I mean, around Jackson, east of Jackson, west of Du Bois, you could get several inches of snow here in the mountains once again, okay? It's going to be pretty intense here in these darkest blue areas, so do look out for that. I would not be surprised if they issued a winter weather advisory, but they have not as of time of filming. Okay, so that's good, I guess. But several inches of snow here in the mountains. Okay, you gotta watch out for this. Once we get into like northwestern Wyoming here, similar situation, but not quite as intense. Same thing for like extreme northwestern Wyoming, like around Mount Everts here in like Mammoth. It's not gonna be that bad. You know, anywhere from a dusting to an inch, I would say. Okay, so do look out for that. Wyoming's gonna get hit decently hard. All right. Now, there is actually one more state, technically, that is going to see some snow in the next 23 hours. Extreme isolated areas of northwestern Minnesota here. Like, in literally, we're looking at the neighborhoods right now, like the street names even, okay? You could technically get a few flurries, okay, just southeast of Williams. So do look out for that, but that's not a big deal at all. In fact, it might not even happen. You know, it's just one of those situations where it could technically potentially spill in from Canada. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. This was kind of a shorter evening time video than my usual. I feel like there wasn't quite as much to break down. But yeah, still pretty eventful. So if you guys did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.